Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers on this channel by the end of the playoffs, so your subscription would be much appreciated. Also drop a like, only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. So, I did a video on the Harden trade on my main channel. I did a video on the Porzingis trade on this channel. I did a video on the 4-team trade on this channel. Last video of the day. Going to be talking about basically everything else to some degree or another, but there's plenty of smaller stuff to talk about, so I'm just going to get through it pretty quickly, just going to cover the surface level of it. 3 teams of note that did not make trades: the Knicks, the Lakers, and the Bulls. I'm cool with the Bulls standing packed, even though all these moves has really concerned me, and I realize that I'm probably freaking out too much because the Bulls have not been healthy at all, but my thoughts of them being a contender is starting to slip. I understand that injury has been such a phenomenally large factor in how bad they have been as of late, but I'm just looking at some of these other teams and I'm like, dog, they're just not quite there. And I mean, it's okay because I wasn't even expecting them to be in that conversation, and they're at the very least at the bottom of that conversation. But I would have liked to see some sort of move happen to make it seem like that's more feasible vision. Didn't happen though. Potentially buyout market candidates like Gary Harris and Tristan Thompson. That would make a difference to me. Tristan Thompson's a lot better than Tony Bradley would be. But I'm not freaking out too much. Would have liked to see it happen, but it's not the end of the world. If anything, the only reason I really cared that much was for the sake of interest. Lakers not making a trade. That's what the title is going to be because it's the most view-worthy thing of this entire thing, but I'm not going to harp on it too much. It's just one of the many topics that I have to get into. I'm not surprised Russ wasn't traded. I mean, a lot of people thought he was going to be because of the fact that he got rested for that Portland game. But I'm not surprised just because, like, who the fuck is going to trade for him? I almost made a video a while ago, like, nobody's going to trade for Russ. But then I thought that when the Wizards traded for him. So I was like, I don't know how much I'm going to bank on that, being that I was wrong before. But no, no one traded for him, and I'm sure the Lakers tried. But what actually surprised me is that Talen Horton-Tucker wasn't traded. Of all things, like, it felt like that was all but a guarantee. And I have to imagine what happened there is just the Lakers were surprised to find that Talen's value wasn't as high as they thought. I mean, there were reports that teams were thinking his contract was bad. I'll say with Talen Horton, as I have always said, guy is 21. He's got a lot of upside on both sides of the floor, other than the fact that he can't shoot. And I don't think he's gotten a fair shake. I think he got way overhyped by Lakers fans, and that had that result in a pushback where it's gone in the opposite direction, and now everyone thinks he is a complete and total scrub, which is also not true. Talen is a really good finisher and a pretty damn good perimeter defender, who also shows a lot of mid-range creating ability, and he also a lot of playmaking ability. The guy has upside, but $10 million a year for that upside is a little high, but that's not a contract that's like holy shit high by any means. And I don't know. I was surprised he was not traded, but I also think that he's just a little underrated. As weird as that is to say, because I was all on the Jesus Christ, stop overhyping this guy when it was happening. Like when they didn't trade him for Kyle Lowry, I was like, dude, you don't not trade for someone as good as Kyle Lowry because of Talen Horton-Tucker. I'm sorry, you just don't. But yeah, I'm just shocked he was not traded. And then on the Knicks side of things, I don't know that there is a move. I don't feel like the Knicks are going to be good anytime soon. I don't know. RJ Barrett's been really good lately. Yeah, that's been a bright spot, but I just don't think. I feel like Julius Randle and Tom Thibodeau had a one-hit wonder year together, and now Tibbs is just a lot more questionable, and Julius Randle is definitely questionable. But those are the non-trades that are worthy of talking about. The fact that those teams did not make those trades. Also worth mentioning for the Bulls thing is that the Bulls vice president said that he was focusing on everybody else returning from injury, which to some extent I get. Patrick Williams is going to return towards the end of the year, so that's cool. And let's talk about the rest of these trades. There was this trade with the Celtics and the Rockets, and I don't know if there was someone else, but Daniel Tice is going to the Celtics, and Dennis Schroeder, Ennis Freedom, Bruno Fernando all going to the Rockets. Ennis has been released, and Bruno probably will be as well. And then Dennis is potentially a buyout candidate as well, but we'll wait and see on that. Daniel Tice of the Celtics is whatever. The Celtics made this move to avoid the luxury tax. It has nothing to do with any actual basketball decision. So that move does not matter, and that to that extent. But what does matter that the Mavericks did is they managed to trade for Derrick White in exchange for a first-round pick that I believe has a protection on it, as well as Josh Richardson, which that is a home run move because Derrick White is supremely underrated. Derrick White is kind of an NBA nerds type of player, but he is almost in a way like in a similar-ish vein to Marcus Smart, in that he's a guy who shoots a lot of threes, but sometimes they don't go in, but he has better shot selection, to give him that credit. And he's a really, really good defender, and he's a good playmaker. And I will say he also has a lot more overall shot creating abilities inside the three-point line. I'd trust him to score the ball generally more than I would Marcus Smart, but it's kind of another one of those types of players, even though Marcus Smart has been supremely overrated by the NBA fan base at large as of late. Marcus Smart, there was a lot of trade rumors with him, and there were some people who aren't Celtics fans that were like, why would they trade him? Ask a Celtics fan. They'll tell you why you might trade him. Not that it's like a thing that should definitely happen, but there's been reasons. But Derrick White, now in that starting lineup, he is a phenomenal defender. Marcus Smart is a phenomenal defender. Jaylen Brown is a pretty good defender. Jason Tatum is a really good but not quite phenomenal defender. Marcus Smart's actually not been phenomenal the last two. Phenomenal the last 2 years. But whatever. Robert Williams, a really good defender. Or if they go with Al Horford, a really good defender. Now, if they have this fucking lineup, they better not be running that two big man bullshit anymore. Al Horford at power forward is not the move. I'm getting tired of that. Now that you have Derrick White, you have no goddamn excuse to be doing that, Udoka. So stop doing it. Derrick White at point, Marcus Smart at 2, Jaylen Brown at 3, Jason Tatum at 4, Robert Williams at center because he's probably better than Al Horford. That's what it should be. These two big man lineups were not in fucking 2005. Stop it. Other than that, but I will say, Derrick White, that move in general, I think is the most underrated move of this entire deadline, and I think it's going to be one of the most impactful ones. I really, really like that fit for the Celtics. On top of the fact that the Celtics have started rolling as of late, their defense has been really good for this year, like 2022. I don't mean this whole season because it was bad before, but I believe they've been number 1 in defensive rating since the calendar has switched. So Celtics are I'm really happy with that move for them. Next we can talk about the Hornets trading for Montrezl Harrell. If I'm not mistaken, I thought PJ Washington was a part of that move, but in Woj's tweet about it, I'm not sure. Was PJ Washington traded to the Wizards, yes or no? First of all, if PJ Washington was on the Wizards, I mean, that joke just writes itself. But it doesn't appear he's in it. So did they really got I don't know where I got that from, but certainly interesting that they got Montrezl Harrell for such a low asking price. I mean, they got rid of him for the sake of having space for Porzingis, but I could have swore I saw that PJ Washington was a part of that, and he's not. But the fact that he's not, Patrick Williams, fucking, I don't know what that was. Montrezl Harrell for that is a steal. I went to the Bulls Hornets game yesterday. I literally got back from it this morning. I was fucking exhausted, but I had to stay up to record these videos for Trade Deadline. I got really good seats, so I got to see just how awful Mason Plumlee is. And the thing is, I would ideally like a defensive-minded big man for Charlotte, but Montrezl Harrell at the very least is going to actually take shots at the rim and make them. Mason Plumlee passed up 2 open shots at the basket and the entire arena booed him. And that's something that he does on a frequent basis. He had one that was very much a Ben Simmons versus the Hawks type of play where he was just wide open and he immediately looked for the pass and it was just fucking awful. Whole fucking arena was booing him. Everyone in Charlotte hates that man. Montrezl Harrell is a huge improvement offensively. Defensively, they're both not good. So at least you're going to have one side of the floor going more in your direction. This is the best center that the Hornets have had since Al Jefferson, which is depressing, but it's true. And I think he is going to do really well in Charlotte, especially paired next to LaMelo Ball. He's finally going to have a really, really good pick and roll partner outside of Miles Bridges. So that's cool. The Pacers send Torrey Craig to the Suns for Jalen Smith and a second-round pick. I really like this trade for both sides because the Suns really were not going to get much out of Jalen Smith. But they managed to get a good role player and Torrey Craig back when he was good for them last year. So Torrey Craig is back with the Suns. Jalen Smith is a young player that has some upside as well as a second-round pick for the Pacers. Of course, rebuilding team, they're going to want a young player with upside and a second-round pick. Thing with Jalen is awkward is he actually started playing well with the Suns, but they don't have his rights anymore because they got rid of them. What's the word? They renounced his restricted free agency rights. So he's now an unrestricted free agent going into this offseason, but hopefully he doesn't play, well, not for his sake, but for the Pacers' sake, hopefully he doesn't play so well that they end up having to pay him a lot of money. But the Suns get back a role player for basically something that was not going to matter to them in the short or long term, and the Pacers get a young player, so that's an absolute win-win trade on both sides there. I also should say on the Spurs side of things, the trade return for Derrick White was not amazing because of the pick. I think it has some protections on it. But, yeah. Other than that, is there any other move that I'm missing? The Celtics traded P.J. Dozier and Bol to the Magic for a second-round pick in cash. That's not really important. The Raptors traded Dragic and a protected 2022 first-round pick for Thad Young. And the pick is lottery protected, and it is 1 through 13 in 2023, and then after that it would be second-round picks. So assume the Raptors are more than likely making the playoffs, especially with this move. So they're getting Thad Young. I mean, to trade like the 17th pick in the draft for Thaddeus Young when you're trying to get young talent while also still trying to compete, I don't know about that. Thad's real old. I would say that's like a C trade if I'm grading it right now, which I'm not actually doing. But yeah, it's not the best, but also the Raptors have been in some desperate need of bench depth, and Thad should hopefully allow that. And the Spurs are going to release Dragic, and he's going to be on the buyout market, so that's cool. Let me see. Is there anything else that I have not covered? All this stuff about the fucking about the James Harden trade. Yeah, I didn't talk about the Joe Ingles move where Nickeil Alexander-Walker was moved from Portland. To me, that emphasizes more and more that they're going in the cap space direction because you would have held on to Nickeil if you were trying to rebuild. So they're going to go for it with trying to build around Dame, sad as that is to me. Probably what they're going to be doing because they wouldn't have traded Nickeil otherwise because they got rid of him for Ingles' contract simply because Ingles' contract expires and Nickeil's does not. And I believe that is about it. I also never technically talked about the Caris LeVert trade when it went down. I liked it for both sides. I didn't feel there were people like trying to pick winners and losers. That's one of those trades where you don't really have to pick a winner or loser. But yeah, that was basically the rest of the traded line outside of the stuff I've talked about already. Very eventful and psychotic one. But I'm going to go sleep now because I have been talking about this shit for the last 2 hours. Bye.